All right, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So can we go ahead and jump to this Bruno Mars conversation? Now, originally, I already had a piece of this conversation in the first episode of my podcast that's about to launch, but I think I might change it and swap it out since I'm now doing a video. I wasn't even planning to do a video, but I saw this morning that this subject is trending again. There's been a second wave, and I think it originates from a video that has kind of been circulating on Twitter from the grapevine. And so, and mind you, I haven't seen that video yet, so I'll be sure to check it out because some of y'all kind of like, hey, check that video out. So I'll try to get to that video. But pretty much the Bruno Mars appropriation conversation has returned. So let me just go ahead and give my 2 cents. And some of y'all are not going to agree with me. Subscribers, some of y'all might be mad at me. It is what it is. Let me just say how I feel because this is how we are on this channel. We're transparent. Take it or leave it as it is. With Bruno Mars, there's 2 conversations. One conversation is, it's just music, just enjoy it. If he's good at what he does, why are y'all being such haters? You know, if the other R&B acts would step their game up, y'all wouldn't be mad at Bruno. The other side of the argument is Bruno Mars is a culture vulture, you know, cultural appropriation, still in a black sound. He's playing dress up, pretty much doing everything in blackface, and he shouldn't be getting any support from black people, this, that, and the third. Here's my 2 cents. I think when it comes to having these arguments, when it comes to something like cultural appropriation, and especially the conversation around Bruno, I think a lot of people's energy is directed at the wrong source of the problem. Bruno Mars, in my opinion, is not the problem that is going on at the moment. But the powers that be, or the structure of how the industry is created at the moment, that is the issue I more so have a problem with. Like, pretty much Bruno Mars, in my opinion, is just the package that came in the mail. I don't have a problem with the package that came in the mail if the package has good content in it. And for me, I think Bruno Mars is a decent entertainer. He's not really my cup of tea. I'm not really crazy over Bruno like that, but I think he's a good singer. He's a good dancer, a good songwriter. He plays a bunch of instruments. He has a lot of talent. And I think also he's always been very respectful and very transparent with the fact that he says that the origin of where he gets his influence from comes from black people. He said if it weren't for black people, if it weren't for black music, there would be no Bruno Mars. He's very transparent with that. He's taken a few moments where every now and then we're okay. He might do a little Black Lives Matter tweet, but just do it real super safe and not be too problematic because he ain't trying to mess up his fan base. He does, you know, a little bit here and there. That's the package. The package on a scale of 1 to 10 and having a problem with it, maybe my level's at a 4. The issue I have, if I had an issue, is with the industry and how it's structured. The people behind the scenes that put that package together. The people behind the scenes that decided that black people were no longer marketable to make their own music. That's the issue that I have. So Bruno Mars is the end result of that structure. I can't be mad at Bruno Mars for doing what Bruno Mars has been doing since he came out. Because if you follow Bruno Mars, yes, his sound is a little bit more R&B influenced, but his sound has always been rooted in that whole R&B soulful kind of sound. Like the first song that most of us saw him on was the B.O.B. song, The Nothing on You, which was pretty much, I always call it like that pop rap, where it's like rappers that really appeal to like white kids in Arizona. Like that's what I kind of got from that. But, you know, his very first award was a Soul Train award. Like it's just, Bruno, that was that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and gas him up, so let me get to my real issue here. So like I said, the issue should be more so with the industry, in my opinion. It's the industry that created that realm where black people are no longer marketable. As a black male entertainer today in 2018, if you're trying to specifically do R&B, the labels are going to tell you that you are not marketable unless you go the R&B thug route. That's the only image that R&B acts are allowed to have at the moment in 2018. You have to do the whole Bryson Tiller, Tory Lanez kind of image, Chris Brown. That's all you can be. You can't be anything else. So for all the additional black male singers who can do any and everything that Bruno Mars can do, and even if like, let me say it like this. If there was a black entertainer that came out with Finesse, it wouldn't have been the hit that it was. If there were, you know, black people who went to a record label saying, okay, can you sign me? I can do all these different things. The answer is going to be, well, listen, we don't really need that realm of entertainment that you're giving because we don't think we can market you to the pop audiences. So, you know, let's put you in the R&B thug route. So you can make, you know, you can make the refrigerator humming R&B music, that, you know, that whole trap R&B sound. You can make that, but that's all we're going to give you. And the problem with that is that sound only gets marketed to one specific audience. It doesn't get the same resources. It doesn't get the same anything. And that's why all of those acts, there's a ceiling to how successful they can be because they're not getting the mainstream machine behind them. All right, but Bruno is. And so a lot of people have an issue with that. And so that's where my issue would come. My issue would come with the fact that we're now in a state where black people are no longer the face of their own music. That's the issue that I would have. And I think if we really want to be transparent, there have always been people who have made black music that weren't black, whether that was Tina Marie, whether it was John B. There was tons of people who always were, you know, Hall and Oates, Sarah Smile, all of that. Like, you know, all kind of acts that have always made music that pretty much black people loved, black people enjoyed it and parted to. But during that time period, black music and black people were still the face of their own sound. Black music was still mainstream. Black people didn't have to worry about, taking a backseat to these other entertainers. So John B could be as successful as he wanted, and black people were cool because we knew that, John B was not going to take over the throne that somebody like Babyface had at the time, or any other, black entertainer that was out at the time. John B was going to be in the John B lane, and he was cool, but labels were not going to put John B in the forefront and start erasing blackness out of music to keep John B and make him more successful than anybody. Tina Marie, the same thing. Tina Marie you can almost put her as a pioneer of the whole 80s funk sound with Rick James and a lot of the other people who came there. But Tina Marie, everybody knew Tina Marie was cool, she was going to be successful, but Tina Marie wasn't going to be replacing anybody or becoming the face of anything. And so when you fast forward to 2018, it's now where anybody who comes out that appears to be racially ambiguous or white or anything else that's not black, that's kind of doing music that's marketed or marketable as like a black sound, they become the face of that image now. And the black entertainers that are still already doing that and sometimes do it better, most of the time do it better, they're not getting that same shine. That's the issue that a lot of people have at the moment. If I were to go to a record label right now, and I don't know, there was a white boy that came with me at the same time, and we both could do exactly the same thing, we both could sing, we could both dance, produce our own music, this, that, and third. The label's probably going to take white boy over me, because the white boy at this moment is more marketable. They can market him because he's safe. And then with somebody like me, they'd be like, okay, you don't really fit the street image, so we don't really know what we could do with you. So yeah, we'll pass. But they'll take the white boy, and what they'll do is they'll put the white boy out there, and then they're going to throw a rapper on his song and give him the street cred that they said I didn't have, and, push him and market him that way. And, it's just the way that the industry has always been. And I think somebody like Bruno is safe. Because Bruno is, we know Bruno, I think, is Filipino and Puerto Rican, and I think he might have Hawaiian in him or something like that, but Bruno is safe. He's marketable to any audience. Soccer moms are comfortable with Bruno entertaining their daughters, and we as black people, because the sound is already good, a lot of us are like, okay, cool, we can rock with Bruno. Bruno gets the best of both worlds. And artists like Chris Brown no longer gets that wrong, because soccer moms decided after the Rihanna thing happened, he's no longer marketable, he's not safe, we don't want him entertaining our children, he's cut, he's canceled. And so Chris Brown is forced to stay in a realm where pretty much he has to keep that same image he has. And he can pretty much only make one sound of music, because anything he makes that's pop will not be supported by pop radio. And I think the other issue comes when you talk about marketing that comes from the labels. Bruno Mars is extremely successful because he has a lot of label support. They're going to push and put all of that effort into Bruno because they know that Bruno's going to give them their return. Any up-and-coming R&B act, any pretty much black entertainer, they don't get that same run. Just the thought of getting your songs on the radio. I think to release to get ads on the radio for each specific radio category, as far as like rhythmic or pop or urban AC, I think depending on which one, I think sometimes you're spending between $200,000 and $500,000 to get radio ads. And they're not going to invest that in a lot of black R&B entertainers. It's just the way that it is. But the thing about Bruno, because I want to come back to Bruno, when I hear the cultural appropriation argument with Bruno, I agree to an extent, but I think you can't put Bruno in the same room as somebody like an Iggy Azalea or even Justin. And I say that because Bruno has always been transparent about, again, the origins of what it is that he does, where it comes from. And when you follow Bruno, if you go back to when Bruno was a child, there's all these clips of him doing Prince and Michael and Bobby Brown, and like that's what he grew up on. You see that is the image that you see that that's the origins of what made Bruno become Bruno. Bruno's been very transparent about the fact that, he loves black music, this, that, and the third. That's what he grew up on. That's what he wants to emulate. And on top of that, as you get into this era where people who were born in the 80s and 90s, which I would like to say was the pinnacle peak of black success in the mainstream, you're going to have acts who came out of that era who, listen, at the time, that's what they aspired to be like. That's what was in their face all the time. That's the sound that they would like to create. And so you're going to start seeing more of those people. So the question is, well, what are you going to do with these individuals who do that? You know what I mean? Because the industry is continuing to shift, and you're going to see more and more people who are racially ambiguous because, of course, America's becoming a browner population. You have more people that are, having interracial relationships, everything like that, and people are starting to, make all kind of babies that come with all kind of nationalities and backgrounds. And so you're going to have more people who come out, and they're going to say that their biggest influence was Marvin Gaye, or their biggest influence was Bobby Brown, or their biggest influence was Usher, or their biggest influence was Beyonce, or this, that, and the third. And so over time, you're going to have more and more people who come with that. And that pretty much sums up what I said when I did a video on this that pretty much talked about the origins of the teen pop explosion. I think I did that in like my R&B is Dead video 16, I think, where I talk about the origins of what created a Justin and a Britney and Christina and Backstreet Boys and all these pop acts that blew up, that were pretty much doing what black people were doing, but just with, taking out a few of the sprinkles of blackness and just making it a little bit more marketable for white people. Like, I talked about that. And that's still going on today. And so, going back to what I said, I don't think you can put him in a boat with somebody like an Iggy. Iggy's somebody who, one, old girl's already from Australia. Okay, so cool. She's inspired by black music, cool. But she not only did that, but she put on the whole black accent. And when people called her out on things that she was doing that they didn't like, she was very dismissive to it, in my opinion. It was kind of like, y'all are haters. Y'all trying to hate on my great. I'm like, no, it's not. We're trying to tell you, listen, I don't mind you rapping as a white girl, but listen, you would be doper if you would just rap with the Australian accent. That would have been doper than you trying to sound like Eve. But anyway, and so that's that. And I think this leads into a bigger question where it comes to people who are racially ambiguous. My question is, where do you put them? Where do you put people who are of mixed ethnicity, where they're not really black or they're not really white? Because unfortunately, in America, culturally, everything is still very black and white. For people who are racially ambiguous, I feel like the realm that they have to put themselves in as entertainers is they have to either align with black people or align with white people. There's no lane for a racially ambiguous kind of collective, because there's so many different groups of people who are mixed with so many different kind of things. You know what I mean? And so a perfect example of this would be somebody like Nicole Scherzinger from the Pussycat Dolls. So Nicole Scherzinger by herself is not marketable to anybody. She's never been successful as a solo act. However, if you put 4 white girls behind her and 1 black girl in the mix, she's now safe enough for pop audiences to embrace. And by having another black girl in the group, she's kind of marketable enough for black people. Like, oh, okay, we can kind of entertain it. And so they tried that with the Pussycat Dolls. They were this big, super huge, giant group. And then when Nicole decided to go solo and she decided to go the whole R&B urban route. And by the way, I hate the word urban. I just want y'all to know that. But she went the urban route, around 06, 07. The black audiences were like, this is cool, but, we got Beyonce. We're getting bodied with Beyonce, and, Sierra's still out, and so she promised with us, and Like a Boy, and whatever else other songs she got out, and we're rocking with Sierra, and A. Marie is still holding on, and, Keisha Cole's out. We're good. We don't need any extra help, so go to the pop audiences. So when they tried to push her over to the pop audiences were like, yeah, you're cool, but we got white girls that already do this. We don't need you. Like, the funny thing about music is, pop audiences love blackness, just not black people. And so they will take anybody else who is not black doing black people things and embrace them and give them a red carpet rollout, and it's just a big turn up. On the flip side, let black people come over to pop and try to do so. They'll be like, they'll get a little, depending on if they're already an established artist or whatever. If they're a big crossover act, they can do a little pop here and there. But pop audiences would rather support their own any day of the week. It's always been that way. So Nicole never quite got to catch on. And I think somebody like Bruno, he falls in that same realm. And it reminds me of growing up. And where I grew up, I got to grow up around the world. I got to live in Europe, got to live on the West Coast, got to live on the East Coast, got to live in a bunch of different places. But where I spent the majority of my teenage years and I guess the older years from like 10, 11, 12, 13, or actually 12 and up, I was in like Washington State. And the area that I lived in was right by a military base. So you had a plethora of people who lived there, all kind of nationalities, backgrounds, but you had a huge population of kids that you didn't know what box to put them in, because they might have been half Korean and half Puerto Rican, or they might have been Sri Lankan and Ethiopian, or they might have, they were a bunch of different things. And so my best friend growing up was Samoan. And it would be interesting because when I would go to his house, when I tell you, his family just absolutely loved everything about black culture. And mind you, they liked black people too. That was a good thing. So anytime I went to his house, anytime we had a sleepover, we were kicking it, when his parents would be doing a barbecue or something, what was the sound that was being played at the house all day? R&B this, Motown, all the 70s funk, Earth, Wind, and Fire. They would play the Jacksons. They would play Janet. They would play Bobby Brown. It was just the blackest thing you would experience around people who weren't black. And when they would have these big parties, because Samoans, when they party, big party. Food for days. I don't know how I'm still skinny, because I used to eat good at those little parties they would have. And I mean, it would be the blackest thing you'd be at without being black, if that made any sense. They would still play the music that was culturally significant to what Samoans listened to, as far as the whole South Pacific Islander kind of thing. They had that going, but the majority of what was going on was very black. And so when I think about that, I feel like that's the same experience that somebody like Bruno Mars probably grew up in. And so it's like, if my best friend decided he wanted to do music at that time, I don't think he's going to come out trying to do country. He's most likely going to do that same music were partying to when we were younger. And so the question becomes, where do you put people in that bubble? And I think, again, going back to the industry's job or actually pause, it's not the industry's job. I feel like it's our job that we have to start taking charge, take control of our sound again. We need more black labels again. We need more black executives again. I think the reason why the 80s and the 90s were such a golden era, and maybe even early 2000s, was because there were so many black labels that could push out our own sound. They had the resources and the revenue to market black entertainers the way that we needed to be marketed. We don't really have that anymore. And so now we're kicking down the door of all these white executives and expecting them to give a shit about how we feel when we know they don't. When we know that the music industry is about money, it's not about music, it's not about talent, it's not about what sounds good, it's about what sells and what can bring money on the table. And in this day and age where people are no longer buying albums and people are trying to somehow make streams happen, and streams are not bringing in any revenue, to be honest, streams aren't doing shit. So for all these acts who, their album just hit 1 billion streams but it only sold 30,000 copies, it's not doing anything to help the industry. It's not helping sell anything. And so the labels are super, super stingy with who they're giving their money to. So they're not going to give their money to a Bryson Tiller. They're not going to give their money to a Tory Lanez. They're not going to give their money to anybody, Anderson .Paak. None of those people are getting the big check. You know, they get a little sprinkle. Here you go, boom. Here's $4,000. Figure out how to make a music video and market yourself. And you also are going to pay for your own band, and you're also going to pay for your own dancers, and you're also going to pay us back for the producers. Figure it out. And if there's somebody like a Bruno, you're doing another album? Okay, well, here we go. Let's go ahead and bring out all the stuff we need for you, and you just tell us what you need, how much we can make it happen. You want to do a big arena tour? Cool. We'll sponsor it. We got you. And so, the things have just changed in the industry. And so there definitely needs to be a resurgence of black executives who make labels. So I would ask that a lot of these black billionaires and these black elites who have the money to do it, put your investments to create black labels where black people can have the right support. And the same thing, like our issue, or at least my issue, as mad as I want to be with Bruno, I can't give Bruno 100% of the blame in this, because Bruno is just doing what Bruno knows. And it's almost unfair to tell him not to be himself. I do feel some kind of way sometimes in marketing, how he may dress and talk. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know, man. But when he hits that stage and that voice comes out, that's him being himself. That's not him trying to mock anybody. That's him doing what he knows. So I can't get 100% mad at him. But I will tell you this, I'm not going to lie. I did feel some kind of way when Finesse came out. And I say that because if you follow me, you know that I absolutely love New Jack Swing. New Jack Swing is my absolute favorite element of R&B. I think New Jack Swing is just the blackest of black sounds you can have within black music. It just represents a time period like this. The sound of New Jack Swing kind of, the swing sound kind of came out around 86, 87, just little hints of it. And then people like Teddy Riley and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and some other producers and Babyface, they took that sound and ran with it. And that sound was just the face of a young black experience during the late 80s and early 90s, especially for those in college, especially those who were teenagers, that whole house party sound. Like when I hear New Jack Swing, I always just think back to being like 4 or 5, at these barbecues and parties, and they had the dance competition. They, Michael, get on in there, baby, go do your dance, boy, you go, boy. I remember that. And so by the time Finesse came out, and then the video came out, I was like, man, I feel like people are having a party at my house, and I wasn't invited. And then when I went to the house to try to get in, security told me I couldn't come in. Like, that's kind of what it felt like to me with Finesse. And mind you, I love Finesse. Great song. I love it. But it was something about that I was like, I like that he's paying homage. I love the nostalgia to it. But my biggest fear, and I think because I'm such a buff about being a historian and making sure stuff is always recorded right, for all of those 16 and 17-year-olds in Oregon and in Seattle and in, I don't know, Kansas City or whatever, these white kids that, heard this sound, who may have never heard that New Jack Swing sound, but they were first introduced to it by Bruno Mars. My biggest fear is that they will always associate that sound with Bruno Mars. And I think that's what makes a lot of people frustrated when it comes to somebody like a Bruno Mars and the sound that he has. He's now the face of R&B. Even though R&B acts don't consider him an R&B act, he's the face of R&B at the moment. And I think that's what pisses a lot of people off. Our history and our legacy and our lineage always gets erased by somebody else the minute they can find somebody else who is safer to market than we are. I think that's what pisses a lot of people off. And again, I don't think you can put Bruno in the same realm as somebody like a Miley Cyrus, because I said this in that R&B video as well. A lot of those pop acts who did the whole urban, I'm black on Tuesday thing, by Wednesday it was like, it was a phase I was going through. I've grown and I've matured. Now I'm making real music. I'm doing soft folk. I don't think we're going to have to ever worry about Bruno doing that. Well, I don't know. The way y'all cussing this man out, he's like, man, fuck all of y'all. I'm out. But I don't know. So with Bruno, it's such a hard conversation to have. I'm 50-50. There's things about Bruno that piss me off, and there's things about Bruno that I enjoy. And I think really the aggression that I would have is not towards Bruno himself, but more so the industry that's allowed Bruno to become Bruno. So it's, when it comes to Bruno Mars, I'm at like a 50-50. There's things about him I'm a little concerned about, but there's things about him that I enjoy. And I think, again, I can't put Bruno in the same boat as an Iggy and a Miley and a Justin, especially Justin. Y'all know I cooked him a few videos ago because the thing about it, Justin was just straight disrespectful with how he did stuff. I always had an issue with that. But with Bruno, I don't know. But the issue that I think I have a concern about is more so the fact that we're being erased from our own sound. That's the biggest issue I have. Bruno can be as successful as he wants, but it shouldn't be at the expense of other black people. And maybe Bruno may not be specifically doing that himself, and it might be these producers that are working with him, these executives and everybody else that's putting all their money into Bruno but won't do the same for black entertainers who are doing the same thing. That's where the energy I have is kind of aimed at. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with a lot of these R&B hip-hop producers who are, at this point, are not working with black artists. They're working with every Kim Kardashian lookalike, every other person who is not black because they know that they can get a better dollar marketing somebody who's not black doing what black people do. I think that's who I have an issue with. I have an issue with the fact that, our sound is no longer allegedly marketable as long as we're not doing it. That's a problem. And so again, my issue isn't with Bruno. Bruno's just doing what he does. He's going to be Bruno. He's going to be the same way Tina Marie was going to be Tina Marie, John B was going to be John B. If you know the girl Janita who does jazz music, Janita was going to do Janita. Same way Kenny G was going to do Kenny G. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the machines behind them that create a space where only they can be successful, and now we're put on the back burner. Like that gets under my skin. Like even with my own little mini project I had, I was like, I'm going to make a New Jack Swing song. I'm going to make a New Jack Swing song because I've been meaning to do that. I just think it's the dopest thing and nobody's really done it yet. And then, Bruno came out with his. And of course, because I'm not signed and I'm just kind of like my own living room kind of entertainer, you know what I mean? Like, of course, watching Finesse pop up, I'm like, I wonder if I had support, would I have gotten that same success? I wonder. But anyway, I think it's a heavy conversation and it's a bigger picture because it's bigger than just music. Because it's like, I don't know, and to the same people who, what I found interesting, a lot of the same people who were going so hard against Bruno were the same people cussing me out when I called out Michael Rappaport and Justin and some of these other people who indulge themselves in black culture but are disrespectful as hell to black people. I found it funny that some of the same people were the main ones who cussing me out about what I said about Michael Rappaport or Justin, but were going so hard on Bruno. I'm like, okay. So, and by the way, to the people who keep trying to say, well, you shouldn't be mad at Bruno, other black entertainers need to step their game up, I absolutely disagree with that 100%. There are so many black entertainers, it's even within the trenches of the internet, who have so much talent, who are doing things so much better than the current people that are out. The thing about it is this, there's always people who are better than the ones that are presented to us. And really, they're just not getting the same support. They don't have the label backing. They don't have the machines behind them. Radio is already specific about who they play. Think about American radio. Most, especially clear channel radio stations, which are about almost 70% of the radio stations in the country. And even if you want to talk about Radio 1 stations, which are pretty much all of the black stations in the country, both stations have a set playlist that they're going to play every week. There's a certain amount of acts and a certain caliber of artists that they're only going to play. And each week, it's going to be that same artist. And it's really hard to break into that realm to get your piece or whatever it is into that circulation. So if you don't have input in that good old boys club and they don't want to invest in you, it's really hard to break in. I had a friend, I don't want to say her name, but anyway, she's worked at a few radio stations around the country. Right now, she's based in, I think, Washington State, but she was in Detroit, she was in Indiana. I remember her telling me this back in 06, 07, where she was saying radio is just straight up BS. The labels are all paying, the payola is still going on, and there's a national playlist, and a lot of times when these jockeys want to play something else, the programmers are like, no, absolutely not. This is what you need to play because we got to deal with this record label, we got to deal with that label, this is who we need to play. And right now, Bruno Mars is in good graces with those execs, and so his name is going to stay on that list of people that they're going to push and they're going to play. And there's a lot of acts who get that. And so the industry, it's a hot mess, and unfortunately for black R&B acts, for black acts that want to do pop, for black acts that want to do country, rock, this, that, and the third, they don't get those same privileges. And so I think with this argument, there's two sides to it. The argument is that black people are not getting the representation that they deserve or the support. And then the other realm is, well, what do you do with people who are influenced by that sound and want to create it because that's who they believe that they align with? That's the question. Where do they go? What do you put them in? And that's what happens when you have a world that's black and white. There's no room for anybody else. You got to either be down with the black people or down with the white people culturally when it comes to music and entertainment, or otherwise you're probably not going to catch on. So which ship are you jumping on, unfortunately? And so it's a heavy conversation. I have so much I want to say on this, but this video is already too long. Share your 2 cents. I know some of you disagree with me, and it's fine. I want to really honestly know how you guys feel about this, because in my opinion, it's not the law of the land, clearly. And some of y'all are going to disagree. So say how you really feel. It's cool what it is. I would like to see the different perspectives of a lot of people, because I really don't have a solidified opinion on this. My opinion keeps shifting and jumping. And I'm looking at everything more so from a structural standpoint and not the individual entertainers standpoint, I guess. So you guys let me know how you feel about everything. I don't know. It's so interesting. Branding and marketing is... Because I did see somebody bring up the piece about, well, they feel like he has props because he always has the black people with him all the time. And they were like, yeah, because that reminds him of like Gwen Stefani having the 2 Asian girls with her all the time. I said, So yes, you guys give me your 2 cents. Anyway, I'm out. Subscribe.